dugsiga boardingka iyo maalinlaha ah ee Amano Boarding and Day School.
Everybody, and I welcome you to this tutorial. In our last tutorial, we are looking at coordination, and I would like us to look today. I want us to look at diabetes or insulin control of blood glucose. You all know that the liver cells, they store carbohydrates, mainly glycogen. That glycogen that is stored is insoluble. It cannot dissolve in the tissue fluid, so it does not affect the osmotic potential of cells. It doesn't make cells to gain water by osmosis. So when blood glucose levels are high, or when blood glucose level is low, that means that we don't have enough glucose in our blood. So what will happen is that glycogen that is stored in our liver cells will be broken down to glucose under the influence of glucagon hormone. And then that glucose that is formed will dissolve in blood and raise the level of blood sugar to the normal level. Then, when the blood glucose level is so high, is above the normal, then insulin will be released from the pancreas, and then that insulin will convert the excess glucose to glycogen, and then that glycogen will be stored in the liver, and then the blood glucose will come down to the normal level. Then we have what you call diabetes, and diabetes is a disease where one's pancreas cannot produce enough insulin to keep the blood glucose level constant, meaning it can be either high above the normal or it can be low below the normal. So as a result, so that this results into blood glucose concentration rising above the normal, because the pancreas cannot make enough insulin that can keep the concentration of glucose constant. So we come to symptoms. How do you know that you have diabetes? The first clear symptom is when glucose appears in your urine. Under normal circumstances, when someone is normal and the blood glucose level is normal, urine will not contain glucose. But once they test the urine and glucose is there, that's the clear sign that somebody has diabetes. 2, having constant thirst. All the time you feel thirsty, you need to drink water. And what causes that is that high glucose level always stimulates the receptors in the hypothalamus of the brain, making the person to drink more water, as so that you can dilute your blood. You can dilute the high glucose level in your blood. The third one is loss of weight and body weakness. Always the person will lose weight, and always the body is going to be weak. We come to managing diabetes. At the moment, there is no proper treatment for diabetes, but we can manage and live with it. The only way we can manage it, managing, we're not referring to treating the diabetes so that you become okay or free from diabetes, but living with it. So one, we have to monitor the diet we are taking. we have to reduce on the intake of carbohydrates because they contain a lot of glucose, and already we have excess, so we have to monitor. Then the next one, if the individual has type 1 diabetes, that individual takes daily injection of insulin so that it can convert that excess glucose to glycogen and stored in the liver. When I talk about type 1 diabetes, I mean that type of diabetes where your liver cells can still respond to insulin. But there is another type of diabetes which is called type 2, where the cells cannot respond to insulin. And this type of diabetes, type 1, is always common in people below the age of 35. Then type 2, that is 35 and above. The third way we can manage diabetes, we can do more exercise. You know that as you do more exercise, you are using a lot of carbohydrates. So it helps you to keep the glucose level in your body low. We come to testing for diabetes. How do you know that you have diabetes? One, you can prick your finger, and then as you prick it, you press, and then you get a drop of your blood, you place it on a test strip. Then after, you transfer or you place that strip in a sensor machine. This sensor machine, it's digital. It has a screen where it will read the amount of glucose in your blood. And why is it good to test? When you test your blood sugar level, it tells you how much of insulin you need to inject into your body and when do you need to inject that insulin into your body. As you can see, this is the sensor machine I was talking about. It has this screen. Then you can see has placed the strip, the testing strip, into the machine, and then it will give you the value of your blood sugar. Then that marks the end of coordination. Now we come to homeostasis and exclusion. When we talk about homeostasis, we mean the process by which internal body conditions are kept relatively, you see this term, relatively constant. They may not be constant, but there is a deviation, but close to constant range. And among the internal conditions that are kept constant, we have temperature, glucose level, pH, carbon dioxide level, and water. Then we have the maintaining a constant amount of water in our body. That one we call it osmoregulation. Osmoregulation, we mean regulation of water balance in the body. That is balancing the amount of water taken in and the amount of water that is being lost from the body. So when these two are balanced, that means the water content of the body will be kept constant, because there is a balance between what you take in and what the body loses. So we come to processes by which the body gains water. We normally gain water through the food we eat. As you know, most of the food we eat at least has water. Even when you eat dry food, you must take a drink along with that food. We can just drink water, or any drinks, they all contain water. When we carry out respiration, when our cells respire, one of the products is water. That water is added to the body. But most of the water is gained through drinking. The biggest percentage of water is gained through drinking. Then the processes by which the body loses water, they include, we lose water through urine, when we sweat, and also in feces. But the greatest percentage is lost in urine. The greatest percentage is lost in urine and also when we exhale. So the greatest percentage is lost in urine and then next in sweating. So we have this diagram which shows the amount of water that is lost and gained. When you look, you can see that drinking, we are taking in about 1,400 cubic centimeters. In food, around 800 cubic centimeters. Respiration, 400. And then, so you can see that drinking is giving us the biggest percentage. Then, the amount of water we lose, you can see that the biggest percentage is through urine, as you can see, around 1,500 cubic centimeters. Sweating, 600, that is the second way, and then exhaled air, and some small amount is lost through feces. So we come to tissue fluid. A tissue fluid, we mean, is a waterless solution of salts, glucose, and other solids in our body. And this tissue fluid surrounds all body cells. It forms a pathway for the transfer of nutrients between blood and the body cells. When materials diffuse out of blood capillaries, they dissolve in that tissue fluid. Then from the tissue fluid, they are carried to the body cells. That's why we are saying it provides a pathway for transfer of nutrients between blood and the body cells. So when you look at this tissue fluid, is always formed by leakage of materials from blood capillaries. When materials link out of the capillaries, they form a tissue fluid. And this tissue fluid has the same composition like blood plasma. The only difference is that the tissue fluid does not contain blood proteins. Because these blood proteins, they are large, they cannot pass through the capillaries, they cannot link out of the capillaries. Then, why homeostasis is important? Why do we need to maintain a constant body internal conditions? One is because only the cells can only function well if they are surrounded by a fluid that provides them with the right conditions or with the best conditions. For example, if a tissue fluid or if a tissue fluid contains too many solutes, meaning if it is more concentrated, it will make the body cells to lose water by osmosis. And at the same time, if the tissue fluid is dilute, it will make the body cells to gain water by osmosis. So you can see that both conditions are not good for the cells. They will either affect the efficient working of the cells, even they can result into permanent damage to the cells. Another factor, when you look at pH and temperature, if they are not kept at the right, if they are not maintained at the right level, they will affect the activity of enzymes in the body cells. That's why we need to keep the optimum temperature and pH. When you look at excretory materials like urea, if they are not removed, when they accumulate in the body, they become toxic, which still affects the function